The British were once known for being a driven, self-confident and optimistic people. But today, modern Britons are, on the whole, very cynical and pessimistic. There are some benefits to this culture of cynicism and pessimism. It stops us from being naive, it encourages modesty and self-deprecating humour, and, in times of opportunity, it can act as an important corrective against blind optimism. However, its disadvantages far outweigh its benefits. A fear of being naive can make people untrusting. Self-deprecation can slip into self-hatred, and cynicism and pessimism create self-fulfilling prophecies which lead to downward spirals from which people and cultures cannot escape. When I came to China, I was genuinely surprised by how optimistic and enthusiastic most people seemed to be. Many people, especially my students, really believed that they could set and achieve lofty goals. They were keen to learn and try new things, and people rallied to support each other's ideas. The difference to the culture of the UK was striking. For example, in the UK, if a person were to come up with an idea for a business or personal project, when he shared that idea with friends, it is likely that the first thing they'd talk about are the risks involved, the reasons it might fail, and so on. Conversely, from my experiences in China, I found that in the same situation, Chinese friends will usually be enthusiastic about the idea and try to help think of ways to make it a success. Of course, the idea might still fail regardless, but in such an environment, people are much more likely to start projects, take risks, and try to better themselves. Assuming the worst and believing things will fail stops people from taking risks, from starting businesses, or striving to achieve personal goals. This has a corrosive effect, both on the individual and society. For example, there is an abundance of potential in the UK. Our island and its seas are rich in natural resources. Our education system once led the world and could do so again. We have a long history and rich culture from which we can draw inspiration, and our mother tongue is not only the language of Shakespeare and Milton, but also the world's lingua franca. Yet despite all this undeniable potential, due to our cynicism and pessimism, many British people now believe that the very best that our country can hope for is managed decline. It is a bitter irony that modern British people are both extremely good at identifying problems, but also very bad at doing anything about them. This is a feature of large British organisations, where everyone, from the frontline worker to senior management, may recognise a problem, but no one does anything about it, as they think that nothing can ever change. This, of course, leads to stagnation. In China, I found that people were less likely to point out problems. But when problems were identified, organisations could often rectify them extremely quickly, even if radical action was required. This helps to ensure dynamism and continued growth. However, I know things are changing in China, and young people, in particular, are becoming increasingly cynical and pessimistic. I understand why. Countries all over the world are experiencing harder times, and young people feel that some of the opportunities that past generations had no longer exist. As a result, they start believing that they have no chance of achieving great things, and that nothing can change for the better. And so, they decide that the smart thing to do is simply not to try. But as a denizen of a culture that has been almost entirely consumed by cynicism and pessimism, I have to warn you, do not succumb. You must fight against those two imposters. Yes, life is hard, and perhaps there are fewer opportunities now than there once were. But betterment and success are possible, and you have to believe it. If you don't, you won't work hard, take risks, and strive to achieve great things. I'm not suggesting that you can make your life perfect simply by believing it will be so. We all must suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, and sadly, even those who try extremely hard will sometimes fail. But if you allow yourself to become cynical and pessimistic, and believe that betterment and success are not possible, then you will not even try. And while success is never guaranteed, failure is guaranteed for all those who never try.